Hey everyone, I just want to give a quick shout out here to our sponsor, RX Smart Gear, on the Clydesdale Fitness and Friends podcast. Any of you who know me well or have listened on the podcast know that I've struggled with my double under journey since I started doing CrossFit about 8 years ago. I started learning the skill by using a speed rope, a very thin, small-handled speed rope, and I started to develop really bad habits with that. I could never get the timing down. So I started with donkey kicking and then piking while I was jumping. And then I would just get so exhausted just because I was so tense while trying to learn that. When I finally switched over to the RX Smart Gear rope, I got a little bit of a thicker cable, which helped more with that timing and learning the cadence of it. And then the handles were so much more comfortable to be able to kind of focus on. And one of the cues I always like to use is like I'm flipping over pancakes. And so those handles made that much more comfortable for me. I'm not a girl that's into a lot of gear for doing CrossFit, or, I'm not somebody that needs to have a gear for this particular movement and this movement, but the jump rope is one thing that I recommend for all athletes that I coach and just other friends who are working on trying to improve their double under. So shout out to RX Smart Gear, and it's definitely helped me, and I hope it helps you. If you're looking to purchase an RX Smart Gear rope, you can use our code, which is Clydesdale 15, all caps, for 15% off. That does not include limited editions or new releases. All right. See you next time.
Sam is getting some construction done today, so we can't be at the gym. So I didn't realize that until today because I forgot that they're coming in during this time. So we had to, we could do it at home, and we don't have Wi-Fi, so I have to be on my phone.
Gotcha. Well, we appreciate you jumping through hoops to make this happen. And we know that you guys are, crazy busy. So thanks for taking the time to do this. So Sam, how you doing?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm Kat, and my co-host Scott is here with me as well.
Kat and Scott.
Scott is the Clydesdale, and I'm his friend.
Oh, very nice. How long have you guys been friends?
Not very long. Since about January. We hooked up together in January. Scott started the podcast in November. And I joined probably in February or early March.
Cool.
Yeah. Sorry, it's taking so long for me to get back to you.
Hey, listen, you got a lot going on, my friend. It's okay.
It's just been kind of like one thing after another thing, and then baby, and then we had our fundraiser last weekend for the special needs. So it worked out great for today.
Yeah, good. Well, let's just get started then. We won't take too much of your time, but tell me a little bit about that fundraiser, if you don't mind. I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, so we have a non-for-profit called Dancer Love Foundation. And the last 6 years, we've always had the fundraiser called the Row Raiser. But we've always donated our money to Special Olympics just because we didn't really have a non-for-profit. We were just trying to help out, James, who is a guy that we became really good friends with, who has Down syndrome. And then obviously over those 6 years, it just became like a huge passion of ours. And we just kind of saw how health and wellness has developed in James's life and how it's helped him mentally, physically, and spiritually. So we were like, instead of giving $100,000 away to a foundation that we really don't know where the money is going, why don't we start our own non-for-profit and start a program here in our own community for special needs? And so last year we made it a non-for-profit, and hopefully in November, December, we can get our special needs program up and running, where anyone here in this area can come to the gym for fitness for free. So Saturday was our annual row raiser, but we made it a glow row. So we had glow in the dark lights, we had black lights, we had body paint, we had glow sticks, and we just kind of made it a big rave party. And it turned out way better than we ever expected. And I think that's going to be the theme for the next year or two.
Oh, I love it. And how much money did you raise?
So we raised about $9,000.
Awesome.
And we had a month to plan it because of COVID. It was supposed to be in July. It got canceled. And then our health department decided to pass it. And obviously we're having a baby in about 10 days. So we had to plan it all within 1 month. And I think I kind of liked it better. It's almost like there's crunch time anyways. So might as well just get it all done in 1 month. And Next year we'll have a few months to at least so we can get some more donations and some more sponsors on board, but it turned out pretty epic.
And you'll have to get some fluorescent baby onesies, right?
Yeah, we have a lot of tie-dye stuff, so
perfect.
That might work.
So how did you guys meet up with James?
I'll try to condense it into a shorter story. But we were kind of looking at developing our gym's just ability to serve people in the community. We were really good at serving people who were generally physically fit, pretty much like already in decent shape. Could you grab that bread for me? Sorry, I'm baking some bread. But I just kind of asked like our staff, I was like, what would happen if someone who weighed 500 pounds came in? What would happen if someone was missing a leg? What would happen if someone was paralyzed? Like, what would happen if someone was blind or couldn't hear? Like, would we be able to help them? And the answer at that time was no. And that's why we wanted to start working with people so that we could confidently say, yes, we could help them. So we kind of like went on a mission of recruiting these unique needs, these special needs of individuals so that we could practice on them. And James was kind of like the first available potential special need client that we could serve. And a good friend of ours worked with Special Olympics, and she also rented an office out of our gym, and she kind of helped facilitate that and got us connected with Special Olympics and got us connected with James and a number of other special need athletes. And we just started hanging out really and just kind of getting to know them and just understanding more about their life and how they move and how they eat and how they think and how they're coached. And we started working to develop our program, if you will, that would allow us to better serve people with unique and special circumstances.
And then we became best friends with him through the whole process.
You guys have such a sweet relationship with him. And I feel like you guys have really sweet and real relationships with everybody that you come in contact with. It's kind of refreshing to see, two games level athletes who seem to have like zero ego and just an outpouring of love for people, which is one of the main reasons why I wanted to talk to you both, because we need more of that in today's society. And it's just really great to have you guys on. It's interesting you talk about adaptive athletes. I have a small affiliate here in Delaware, and I've gone through a couple of certificate courses for adaptive training as well for that purpose, to try to sort of diversify my client base. And I do work with a couple kids now that are on the spectrum. And require some special training methodologies and things like that to sort of have them active for an hour. And I've reached out to like the local VA hospitals for, physically adaptive athletes and things like that. So I might have to hit you guys up later on and talk a little bit more about that, off air, if you don't mind sharing.
For sure.
Yeah.
And
awesome.
Honestly too, like the way we started it, even before the moment that James came in, we have a friend that is in the CrossFit world, and they have a daughter that has special needs, and they have a daughter that has Down syndrome. And we kind of asked them too, like we reached out to them and was like, hey, what do we do? And he's like, you just have to start it. Like, you just have to dive in. You just have to get to know them, become friends with them, figure out what they're like how they move, they think, and all that. And honestly, that's kind of what we did. We just became friends with them and just kind of moved forward from there. You just kind of have to jump into it and get to know the client, and you'll figure it out as you go along. Because every need, even if it's just Down syndrome in general, like every single individual is so different, even if they have the same situation, but every single one that we have that come through our gym is so different that you just have to build that relationship and figure out what's best for them. So that's literally the best advice I think than we could give anybody, because that's the advice that we received when we first started. So
I love it. I love it. So 10 days away from having a baby. Maybe this will be your last official appearance prior to giving birth. That would be kind of cool. We hope so, at least.
It definitely might. I think like all moms say this though, but like they're like, oh, maybe today's the day. Like I'm feeling like today. And then like a week later after their due date, they're like, oh my gosh, I still have this human inside me. So I know every mom probably says it, and then everyone says it's unlikely to go early on your first. But I could go for this weekend. That would be great.
Would be cool.
We
cool.
would love to meet her any second now. So, but I tell her every day she can bake as long as she needs. It's her agenda, but yeah, it would be great if she made it comfortable.
Right. That's all what we're hoping for.
Yeah.
Sam and Jenn, how did you guys meet? We know a little bit about your athletic backgrounds in college, and Jenn, you played professional soccer out in Sweden. How did you guys hook up?
It's kind of
professional soccer in Sweden is a great segue into us meeting. So
yeah, so I played professional soccer in Sweden, and then I had a boyfriend in Sweden at the time, and we went our separate ways. And I usually stay in Sweden for all like the festivals, and we get 2 months off, 1 month off completely before the second half of the season starts. And then the other month is training again to prepare for your second part of the season. Well, I decided to come home to visit my parents for the week, just because it's a lot easier for me to come home, for them to come over. And during that week, I went to the YMCA with a girlfriend, because she's like, hey, there's this hot guy that trains people at the Y, so we should go check him out. And I'm like, all right, fine. Like, so we get on the ellipticals at the Y, and we're like running, and we can't find this guy anywhere. And so my friend Rachel's like, I swear he's here every single day, but we never found him. I found out later he was having eye surgery at the time. That could be another subject in a second, but so he wasn't there. So I found another friend from high school that was like, oh, there's this guy. He usually is here every day. Same guy we're talking about. He's like, but he's doing CrossFit for free in the park. It's something that you probably would enjoy. I dabbled a little bit of CrossFit in Sweden. And so I was like, okay, yeah, maybe I'll check him out. An hour later, Sam calls me, because my friend Brad must have sent him my number. So Sam calls me and he's like, hey, I think you're a little bit more advanced than what we're doing with, CrossFit in the park. I would love to bring you on as like a personal client for a week. And I was like, I'm just not really looking for like having to, pay somebody for a week. And I'm not really looking forward to like, this is my week off. I just kind of want to chill. But I was like, I'll meet him once. We'll see what happens. Because everyone says he's super hot. So I'll just meet him. And so I met him. Super big stud. I will have to show you a picture. I'll text you a picture after this of what he looked like when I met him. But he was like 200 pounds. He had this kind of like short on the sides, but kind of like mohawky on the top. It was kind of like this college thing at the time. And and he was super chiseled, like 200 pounds. And so I was like, okay, I can hang out with him for an entire week. I thought he was gay, so I had to ask him, because I just kind of wanted to know, just be a little nosy. And so he was my personal trainer for an entire week. He was like, Jenn, I have a girlfriend of 6 years. I'm like, well, that sucks. Mm-hmm. And he was an art major in college. So just a different guy that I've ever ran around. I've only ran around, jocks, which he is a jock. He played football, D1 football and everything, but he was just so passionate about fitness and passionate about the small things, he was just such a loving person 24/7. I'm like, this can't be real. And so anyways, he has a girlfriend of 6 years. We trained all week. I paid him $240. And all we did was mobilize and do just like stretching and rolling out and obviously everything that I needed. But at the time, I'm like, why am I paying you $240 to do mobilization? Like I want to go run or do something, lift weights. And so that was kind of our relationship. It ended up being like the one thing I needed. I took it all back to Sweden, changed my diet. It completely changed the entire trajectory of like my sporting career. Had the best season of my life because of my diet changes, he just told me to do some gluten-free stuff because I had some inflammation, and some dairy-free stuff. Super simple. And I mobilized every morning, every night, and it literally changed my semester of my last season. So yeah, that's kind of how we met at the YMCA.
Then we talked on the phone for like 5 months.
Yeah, so I moved back to Sweden. He was like, so then the last night that I was here, I was like, he calls me at 11 o'clock at night, and he goes, hey, is Christ the number one thing in your life? And I was like, yeah, it's a really weird thing for you to ask me at 11 o'clock at night. He's like, well, we have a problem. And I was like, you don't love Jesus? Like, what's your problem? You know? And he goes, no, I love Jesus. He's like, but I'm in love with you. And I was like, okay, well, that's a problem, because, you know, he had a girlfriend at the time. I was moving back to Sweden for at least another 6 months, 5 months. And so I said, time will tell. Actually, I said,
this is like some classic Jennifer stuff right here. She said, are you sure you just don't love the idea of me?
Well, I was a professional athlete. He was trying to get some clientele for his name to be a little bit bigger in, like, you know, his personal training world. And the little cocky professional athlete that I was at that age just asked him to make sure, are you sure you don't like the idea of me? And he was like, screw you, Jen. I just told you I was in love with you. So I said, I don't think I said I love you back. I don't really remember. It took me about like 2 weeks to know that I was in love with him. But I moved back to Sweden, and about a month or so later, we started talking on the phone and Skype, and we fell in love we both fell in love then after that.
Almost fell out of love, like talking on the phone. We were so like, it's just because we were so miserable with our schedules. Like, she would wake up super early to talk to me, and I would stay up super late to talk to her. And then I would have to go into work at 4:30 a.m. and I'd be working till 9 at night, not eating any food, sleeping at the gym, and coaching every single class that we offered. And
it was pretty miserable.
Yeah. And just toward the end, like, I started looking like crap, about like how I look right now, just like super scruffy and all puffy and inflamed. And
my friends here kept being like, is Sam okay? And I'm like, I don't know. I guess so. Like, we talk every day still, but like 2 weeks before I came back to America, we were like, maybe this isn't what we want to do. Maybe this isn't for us. And then we saw each other that day. And then obviously we fell back in love with each other, and we got married 5 months later.
Wow. 5 months.
That's
I love
awesome.
it. So you just knew.
Yeah. I knew in like 2 weeks. He knew the second day he met me.
First day I met her.
First day he met me. And then I met his mom the second day.
The second I saw her, actually, it was just like, I didn't even have to talk to her. I was just like, there's nothing that this girl could say or do for me to not love her.
Thank God.
That's special.
My mom's like, we've been waiting for a good guy to come around. So
mother's dream.
So what's awesome for me is I was a volunteer in the Central Regional. So I got to watch you both compete at the same time, and to see your love in person, it is so genuine. But it's got to be so stressful because you're competing yourself, and then both of you would run to be able to watch the other and support them. What were those weekends like?
Well, I feel like for the most part, I was just competing because, I mean, I already had my professional career. This was kind of like my second professional career. So
yeah, she was pretty satisfied with her athletic career at this point.
So I was just kind of having fun. I felt like if I was able to make regionals or, you know, able to do that well, that I should just try to enjoy it and have the experience. So I continued to keep doing it every year. So I never really focused on my career at all. I was always just so concerned
supporting mine.
Yeah. So
she came really, really close. Like almost every year she did it. I think 2 years she was in like the top 7 or 6 going into like the last day. It was, even though like the focus was around me qualifying, like we would still be wanting to watch each other. So it was really kind of catastrophic to either of our success, because we'd be so worried about the other person that we wouldn't eat or we wouldn't go recover. And there's this gentleman named Matt O'Keefe who's he's kind of like an agent. He's more of a friend and just a mentor. I don't do a ton of business per se with him. He helps guide me on what would maybe be a good business decision. Sometimes I guess he is kind of an agent, but more friend. And he just kind of mentioned to me, he's like, Sam, if you stop worrying about others and you just focus on getting some food and maybe after events go and rest rather than going and talking to your supporters or talking to people who want to take a picture with you, he's like, you'll qualify for the games. And he was pretty much right. As soon as I focused on myself and got food in me and I recovered, I think pretty much the next year I qualified.
Yeah. And as an individual, we always supported each other because we wanted to watch each other. We want to make sure each other were doing well. But once we kind of got together as a team and we started competing together, we didn't really have that focus or mentality anymore on each other because we just knew what we were all thinking. Because we were in such flow and such sync as a team, eventually we kind of grew out of having to worry about each other because we just knew how the team was feeling, how we were flowing, how everything was going. So we kind of distanced ourselves of after that event, we would go recover what we needed to do. We didn't have to take care of each other anymore. So I think it was just kind of through our individual careers where we kind of had that, oh, I got to go support him or her, and I always felt bad because I was the one that always booked the hotels or booked the Airbnbs. And I usually royally messed up and I would have to change that because I'd be like, oh my God.
She's cheap. She's really cheap. So sometimes you get a great bargain deal and you're like, wow, nice work. But there's other times where it's just you cheap ass.
Yeah.
You get what you pay for.
Times I ruined those moments and I had to okay, this is Sam's competing weekend. This can't be the reason why he doesn't qualify or, place as well. So there's a lot of times that I would take that stress and would have to just not think of myself all weekend just to make sure that he was completely okay. But again, I was satisfied with my professional career before I even started CrossFit. So I wanted him to have the experience that I have already had. And that was really important to me.
But
so
lesson learned, we do better when we do things together.
Yeah, for sure.
Like making babies.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, we just killed our fish and I can't keep a plant for the life of me alive. So
totally different.
I hope
Totally
we
different.
Can take care of this baby.
You'll be fine.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
The plants and the fish never come with us. That's right. That's the problem with us having a pet or a plant is we've been home a lot more this year. As you can imagine why. Let's see if we can go through this podcast without talking about any of that. That the child's going to come with us everywhere. So I don't think we will kill it.
The odds are in our favor.
I think we are going to be able to keep it alive and it's going to be able to have a lot of fun with us.
That is a great attitude. Tell us a little bit about your preparations the last few months. I see on social media, lots of Post-it notes, lots of, mindset reminders. And I heard you one time on a podcast talking about how preparing for a baby is even more intense and obviously more important than preparing for the games. So tell us a little bit about what that looks like on a day-to-day.
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited that you're bringing this up because we really want to
share this with people.
Yeah.
Because of how grossly it is disgusting how uneducated we and everyone else for the most part is when it comes to having a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And I've probably read 20 different baby books and I'm just every time my jaw's dropped, I'm like, nowhere is anyone, even if you go like to the doctor to have a baby, they are not educating you at all. Like, we have heard some horrific stories from our close friends who've gone to the hospital to have a baby unprepared, basically not being educated on, what not having a plan, not having a plan on what that day kind of looks like, and things leading up to it, like being fed and being well rested, and
just being educated too of like, okay, if things don't go well, what's that next process? Usually it's Pitocin. After that, what's the next process? People usually do C-sections. Like, what are those things and why are doctors giving you those? And just educating yourself on what could that process all look like. So you have a little bit of a heads up of what's going on. So you can ask questions, or you can say why, or we just realized that a lot of people just kind of go blindly into it, not understanding that actual process of it. Just, reading the baby books of like, what's going on with your body this week, and, how big is your baby, and maybe doing some education about breastfeeding, but nobody's really understanding what's the medical terms and the medical, kind of drugs or the system that they're doing within the hospitals. Like, that's something that I think we're very uneducated about.
Yeah. And just like in feeding mom, and because this is what I like get a chuckle out of this every single time. I can't tell you how many times I've heard other moms say like, eat
what you want,
do it while you can. And I'm like, what? No, you're making a baby. Like, if there's one time in your life to ever
be healthy,
it's when you're making a child. And like, it's not a free pass to just like eat pizza and McDonald's. Even though that's maybe what sounds good and what you think you're craving. And I say think you're craving because, if you're craving pizza, your body needs fat and carbs. If you're craving a big juicy burger, your body's craving protein and fat. And you just need to find quality solutions to your cravings, not convenient solutions to your cravings. They could be convenient if you're prepared, but if you're not prepared, usually convenience equals low quality. And so everything from like, how are we feeding mom to grow a baby, which is really similar to growing muscles and like training for the games. Post-natal stuff is a little different. The body changes quite a bit, and you go into just a completely different state, right? So like, it's like the exact opposite of what you just did. So you're almost going into a cut, right? Like, you have a bulking phase kind of, and then you have like a cutting phase where the body's trying to get rid of excess like water retention, trying to get rid of a bunch of inflammation, trying to reposition all your organs, and trying to get the skin to like go back and everything. So two completely different phases in regards to how you would nurture yourself with food. And
not only do you have like the food aspect of it all, which is a huge component that we want to try to
start sharing more
of like what you should be eating and what you should be doing through your making baby stage. Then what do's and don'ts you want to do after
delivery,
baby comes, because they're two different states. Right now, like, mom's in a hot state. We're in a hot state right now. Our bodies are hot, trying to keep the baby warm, all this stuff. And then when you, like Sam said, you're cutting and shedding and all that stuff's trying to be reversed, you're then in a cold state. So you need to treat your body and your diet two different ways. The only similar thing about the hot state and the cold state is you need to feed your body, because like afterwards you got to feed your body for breast milk, producing breast milk and still making that baby nourished. And then now we're just, growing the baby. So you're still eating a lot like you are for the games. I think some days I burn 2,800 calories or 3,000 calories.
Which is more than what she would almost
training for the games. So I'm going to butcher this statistic, but it's enough information to point someone in the right direction. That like the amount of
energy that is used by a mom to make a baby is like, it's way more than that of training for like an Ironman. And just like Jenny said, she's burning more calories sitting on her butt all day doing nothing than she was training 6 hours a day. So it's quite remarkable what the body's doing and going through. And it's really important that we support the body in the process. And like I said, how grossly undereducated even we were, but we did the work to get educated on this stuff. And it was really cool to see how similar it was to, like you brought up, to training for the CrossFit Games, especially in regards to just all the meal prepping, and just because you don't have time for that when you're training almost 8 hours a day. And then you're sleeping. So like you have to have all those things pretty much banked up so that you can just like eat, sleep, train, repeat, eat, sleep, train, repeat, and it's, so we are kind of fired up about sharing more of this process with people so that we can just help get people educated. And I really truly believe like changing the trajectory of humanity is kind of, it's starting with our babies and how we're birthing them and how we're assisting the mother in her recovery process. And I think once we can, well, I'm sure there's a lot to this. It'd be like, damning one thing for some sort of like being overweight. Like you can't just say it's gluten that is led you into some autoimmune disease or Hashimoto's or something like that, or low testosterone. It's like, it's a bunch of things, and even though it's a bunch of things in regards to changing the trajectory of humanity, I think a big fundamental foundational component to exciting that change is putting more focus, energy, and attention into the nurturing process of growing a child and recovering a mother, and just consciously parenting our children as well. And we're excited to share that stuff.
Yeah. I think it would also too allow people to have better birth experiences.
Yeah.
And that's where like all my affirmations come in. Is we're having a home birth, so a lot of our stuff's a little bit different, but just preparing our mindset to, you can have a good birthing experience. Yeah, it's going to be hard. There's going to be pain. There's going to be all these different things, but you can still prep your mind, body, and soul for, a positive birth experience. And it doesn't have to be so traumatic as the ones that we hear within the US, and the way they go a lot throughout our hospitals. And that's why we just want everyone to be educated about that. And then we have a whole nother process for our 4th trimester, which is the recovery process. And we're working with a lady named Valerie Lynn. She's done some research for the last 20 years in Malaysia, and she's going to be our postpartum care coach through these 6 to 8 weeks after the baby. And it's a lot of just do's and don'ts of your diets and getting your organs, back into position and back to normal size. And there's a lot of things that moms don't think about too. In our American culture, everyone just wants to jump back in and get back into fitness, and a lot of people are like, oh, my body's telling me I need to get back. But really it's our egos that are telling us we have to get back to fitness or back to work. It's the only thing that us Americans know. And so I'm going to try to have a good long recovery for 4 to 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks. And I'm going to document that and kind of see, just so we can kind of educate women more about how to prep your body afterwards. Everyone's always worried, about the baby and the mom just eating enough for breast milk, but there's just there's a whole other process that needs to happen. And we're hoping that maybe after this, we can kind of maybe offer that within our gym on how to have that 6 to 8 week post partum care. So
yeah, I love it. And you mentioned that you wanted to sort of share what you've learned about the process. What does that look like? Are we talking like an ebook, a book, a podcast? What do you think?
More like podcasts, probably
more podcast. I've had some like desires to work on like writing a book, and I'll start like outlining it and stuff, and it just like it doesn't really excite me as much as I thought it would, even though I'm sure it would be great help for people. Mm-hmm. The podcast thing seems to be a better way for us to share that information. So I think it's going to look a lot more like podcast, and then rather like on Instagram, just posting some picture of me lifting weights, like with some little witty quote to inspire you. They might look like a little bit more well thought out, like well researched and written shares, rather than just like lifting videos and inspirational quotes and stuff like that. So, and that's honestly, a lot of this has really come from kind of, I don't know about Jenn, but me losing really, like, I don't know if I never said lost it, but just I'm like, what am I doing on social media? And like, is this really a good use of my time? And it's funny because usually whenever I ask that to myself, I get, and even if I just one person I'm able to like inspire or help, I'll get a message from someone that's just random, says like, hey man, I really appreciate the content you put out, even though to me it doesn't really feel super, super authentic and like it's could help somebody. I still kind of feel almost like I'm playing the game of like, just get likes and get followers. And that's makes me feel kind of gross. And I'm trying to find ways to more authentically connect and inspire and educate people. And, yeah, I'll still get a little message from time to time from someone when I'm thinking those thoughts of like, what is the point of me being on here? And I'll be like, oh, so someone is listening, or this did help somebody. Even if it happens to be one of those like goofy, like inspirational, like quote type things that's like just with a random picture that doesn't go together. That still might kind of, lift somebody up. And it's good to get those reminders because of how I feel about social media these days, and which is what's kind of led to us being more interested in taking the podcast route. So I think that's what people could anticipate in regards to us delivering more educational content is in the form of the podcast. And I've been talking about it for a while, and Jenny knows me very well that my pace is a really slow pace. Especially to hers. Like if Jenny said that she was going to start a podcast, it would like the next day it would be started. Me, I'm like, I'm going to do a podcast. And then it's like a year and a half later.
It's going to be about a year until we really start our podcast. And so that will be in January.
I think, honestly, already this child, even though that it's not here, has been well, you don't have to, but for us, it's really been forcing us to get organized. I shouldn't say us, me, to get organized, for me to be a little bit more, just manage my time better and be a little bit more effective with it, and just like have routine and have habits that where I just like, this is when I get this done. This is when I get this done. Then I do this, and then I do this. And that is not me. I'm more of like, I do not want any schedule. I do not want any, I just want full flow.
One task at a time.
Yep.
If he gets one task done, good. And if he wants to do a second one,
cool.
That's a bonus.
So, but it goes back to like the training for the CrossFit games. That's almost like I almost need a competition for me to feel like, for me to do all the things that I wish I would do if I just out of, without having a goal or without having a competition or anything like that. It'd be cool if I just
got up in the morning and had a schedule
and had that stuff. But I need something to kind of to motivate me to follow through. And the baby has even already, without it even being here, has already kind of evoked that in myself, and we're getting a little bit, cleaning up a little bit more, or I'm prepping more meals in advance, and
and you have a due date, right? You have a date, so that's kind of the goal, right? To get to that due date.
Nice. As much as it sucks to kind of have a date, and you're just waiting for this date to come around, it is nice because you have deadlines, like, okay, we need to get some stuff done. And I like dates, deadlines, time frames.
So I think this is going to be a really good kick in the butt, even for my athletic career, not to make it super centered on myself or anything, but because it's just going to make me a more efficient and just manage my time better. And it's motivating, quite frankly, because you just you want to get all these things done. So maybe you can hang out with mom or hang out with baby, or because you have, I don't know, all these responsibilities, it just kind of forces you to get organized. And I'm the type of guy that needs that. So I'm really excited to see what we become. Because we're not going to be the same people that you're talking to right now in a matter of weeks. And we're going to, our lives will be completely different. We will be completely different. And we look forward to that. And I'm personally excited to see who we become.
Yeah. Do you guys have children?
I do. I have a 17-year-old son and a 15-year-old daughter.
How old are you?
I'm 47.
What? You are not 47.
Yes, I am.
Wow. You look amazing.
Thank you. That's so sweet. There's a really good filter on here, probably.
I'm usually really good at guessing people's age.
I would say 30s.
Yeah, I would have said
you guys are sweet.
Yeah, 32, 33. Amazing. Yay. That's so cool.
I would say 37 because the glasses make you more sophisticated, and I'm 36. So
tell you what, these are progressive lenses, so I'm feeling really old in them. but thank you. That's sweet.
Great. That's amazing.
Nice work.
Thanks.
And me, the old guy, I have a 19-year-old.
What? No way, you
How
guys.
do you guys, oh my gosh, could you imagine having someone old enough to hang out with?
Right?
You guys are killing life right now, man.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Living life.
I started CrossFit when I was 40, and I wish I had found it at a younger age, but it's definitely been the fountain of youth.
It really, it's been incredible watching our members reverse their age.
Yeah.
I have a great number of people in the gym who look healthier, sexier, more bright, vibrant, and stronger and conditioned than they did when they were in their 20s. It's so cool to see people literally, this is probably not the most appropriate word, but just getting sexier. It's crazy to watch people get sexier and get older at the same time. It just blows my mind. It's such an inspiration to me. And like you said, I wish I would have started, even though my journey started pretty young with working out and stuff, but more of the holistic principles that are within CrossFit in regards to, I was just kind of I had this kind of no pain, no gain mentality, which still kind of spills over into CrossFit a little bit because people do overtrain a lot. But a big part that I was missing in my younger years was the nutrition aspect and the taking some off days and doing mobility and being a little bit more balanced with the training rather than just doing things that I was really good at.
Yeah, that makes a difference. Makes a huge difference. I also wish that I had been able to experience pregnancy during, you know, a CrossFit era, because I had horrible pregnancies. I hated being pregnant, and just, it wasn't fun. I had terrible birthing stories. So it's just nice to see that you guys are sort of bringing some of these options to light. We've learned a little bit about, you know, traditional medicine and the, you know, the evolution of functional medicine. And now, you know, CrossFitters are getting into this more holistic approach to their bodies, and not these cookie cutter diagnoses with diet and exercise. So it's interesting to see you guys sort of experience, you know, the OBGYN side of things, and be able to apply those same principles and bring to light sort of some of all those myths and misconceptions that are just, you know, it's like herding cattle. These practices are so huge, and they have all these pregnant moms, and they're just, yep, this is what you do. This is what you do. This is what it's going to be like. And most women just sort of go through the process, right? Instead of, you know, taking charge and learning more about it. So I love that you guys are doing that.
Yeah. And honestly too, like, we are very thankful for doctors who are good in their field and in what they specialize in. But like in Australia, they only do home births, and then they go into the hospital if they need the intervention or some type of emergency plan.
Or like where else? Like was it?
Sweden also does. Sweden has a lot of that as well, but not so much. But
we're very like, it seems like the Western world is very, we think we're advanced in our childcare and our like in pregnancy and stuff, but it's like we're kind of have like I think we have like kind of the worst statistics in like almost a lot of things, right?
It's very backwards. Yeah.
But some of these ancient traditions, we hope to kind of bring bring
awareness and bring back to the United States. So
in hopes that it changes the world, like, and really, like, if we could get more people thinking this way and doing these practices, I think it would really alleviate a lot of the pain that people are in. And you see it everywhere, especially social media, just like with comments, nasty comments people leave, and that is all just a projection of how they feel inside. And I think if we kind of got back to the roots of like where we come from and how we're nurturing ourselves in these early stages of development in life, that we would start having healthier babies. And I think with the healthier babies would come, just a healthier life in general, a happier life. And yeah, so we hope that we can play just a really small part in helping just clean things up here in the States, especially here in the Midwest for us. We definitely feel very called to be in the Midwest area and helping people just get on track.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a sort of introspective question for you both. What do you think makes what's the makings of a great parent?
We're reading this book called The Conscious Parent right now, and it's really cool. We're not even done with it. I think I only got into like probably 45 pages of it, and it's mind-blowing so far.
You'll have after reading 40 pages, you'll have a year's worth of integrating to do.
Yeah.
The answer to that question, I would say, would be something along the lines of communication, which kind of stems back to Eckhart Tolle calls it the pain body. And I kind of like that. And and that's ultimately where a lot of poor communication comes from, is the fact that, somebody's in pain to some degree, or they're sick, or they have some sort of trauma, and they're unaware of it. And it's coming out in the form of how they speak. So I think communication is really, I forget exactly the words you used in the question. But I think that's really where good parenting comes from. Like, I could say something about nutrition, and I could say something about, having discipline and being on schedule and managing time well and having good hygiene and all these things. I think that stuff is really important too. But if I were to pick like one thing that is the foundation of good parenting, it's just how you speak to one another and your child, and knowing that the way you speak isn't the way everyone speaks, and the way that you hear isn't the way everyone hears. So learning to get on another person's level so that you can kind of share their perspective and understand where they're coming from, instead of just worrying where you're coming from. We're always so worried about where we're coming from and what we're going to say next and how we feel, that we forget about how someone else feels, and learning how
not to project your emotions and feelings onto other people when you're parenting.
That's our biggest fear too as parents, is like, we don't want to, like, I want our child to be themselves, to just like, I want to help, guide them a little bit and provide them some structure and stuff. But I want to see what they end up being with us really tampering with it. And it seems like a lot of people spend their adult years kind of unprogramming themselves from, and it's not an attack on our parents. Everyone's parents did the best job that they could with what they knew. Even the crappy ones, even ones who were like abusive, they did not know any better. They just, they did what they knew. And so it's like, we had a
16-year-old foster daughter. She wasn't really through the foster system, but she was one of my soccer clients, and we took her in for a year. It was supposed to be for 30 days, just to kind of get her a break, kind of, just get her distance from some stuff. And it ended up being an entire year. And what we found out, it was how I was raised and how he was raised was very, very different. Even though we both had amazing childhoods, we had amazing parents, and we had amazing lives, we still were raised so differently that you could tell within our communications, just in our marriage, and you could tell within our parenting styles when we had a 16-year-old. And we learned that I've always been met, like, I have to have expectations. I have expectations for others. I have expectations for myself. My parents had high expectations for me, and that was just normal. And so I reached those expectations, and I would get grounded. I would get punished. I would be, disciplined. Sam was never disciplined. He would go on car rides and have talks and communication, and just like, why did you do this? Or, what made you feel like what made you feel this way, of why you acted this way, or something like that. And so we were just raised completely different. And my family's very loud. We will yell at each other all the time, but that's like what makes us close. Sam's parents they're all so quiet, and they all like touchy, and they're lovey, and they hug, and they kiss on the lips when they see each other. There's no way my family could ever do that, but we have two families that are still very close. So we kind of started realizing the patterns of how we were raised were affecting our marriage relationship. And that's how I think sometimes two people kind of project onto their children when they have children, not meaning that it's a bad thing. It's just that we don't know any better. And so being able to see these little triggers that we have with each other, or triggers that we had when we had our daughter for a year. And it's just like realizing and being present and being aware and communicating those feelings, so the perception of how we're perceiving each other doesn't go south. Because there's a lot of times that, like, I'm yelling, but I'm also loving and communicating is what I'm doing. But to him, he's like, you're screaming at me and I'm in trouble, even though you just said I love you. So like, it's just like your tone of voice, the way you communicate, the way you talk, and understanding each other's perspective. And I think that's
core language has been a big thing for us. We mentioned that book, The Conscious Parent. There's another really good one called It Didn't Start With You. It Didn't Start With You is all about kind of healing childhood traumas and whatnot. But the essence, I think, of the book too is identifying your core language. And for instance, a very simple one, like, I'm killing it.
Yeah,
like,
you guys are killing it.
We're trying to rephrase it into more life-affirming language, right? Not something that is negative, not something that's damning, not something that is not life affirmative, right? And a lot of our language for everyone is very much like that. You're crushing it, you're killing it, that's sick. Like, those are all very negative, non-life affirming words. And so we're trying to work on,
you're living it,
you know, saying things like, oh man, that's healthy, or instead of like, that's sick. And so those little things though go a long way. And it just, like, when you start thinking of that, it just brings awareness and attention to, you know, how you are speaking, and what you are speaking is kind of like, it's like, it's what's going on the inside. And so we're trying to change our voice and work on our insides so that we don't project any crazy bullshit onto our kid, so that they have to like spend their adult years like unprogramming themselves from all the craziness that we put inside their head. And
I'm sure there's going to be some things, you know,
yeah.
It's just it's inevitable.
Yeah.
Inevitable. I can't say that word.
No,
but
we're not. Yeah, no one's perfect, and we definitely don't claim to be or think we are either. And we know that we're going to spend the rest of our life on a journey to becoming
better people, better parents.
More for us, it's more Christ-minded. So and hopefully by time our child pops out, that we're communicating to her in a way, and each other in a way, that is life affirmative and supports her in the development of becoming her true, most authentic self, with a heart and mind for Christ.
I love how enlightened you both are. That's such a nice way to be. I have two closing questions. They're kind of fun, kind of serious. One is, Sam, if you had to pick one quality of Jenn's that could be sort of inherited by baby Star, what would it be? And then Jenn, I'll ask you the same question about Sam.
I have mine. Mine's pretty easy.
Go ahead.
Mine would just be two things. Sam's heart. He has such a big heart for everybody, anybody, everything, animals, whatever it is. His heart's so passionate and big. So I hope Star has a big heart. And I also hope that she has the mindset of Sam of just like, let's have fun. Like, I want to have fun every day, no matter what that looks like. And I like that about him. So
Jenny has the ability to literally will her way to win and conquer anything, like even things that she has never done before, or even when she's against all odds, and maybe it's like against all odds physically or whatever, maybe it doesn't matter. But Jenny, just I've said this since we've been married, Jenny wins. Like, she finds a way to win. And
it's also my downfall.
It's funny. Yeah, it's funny. Like, I knew when you asked that question, I'm like, our answers are going to be the same thing that not only we love about each other, but the same thing that
makes you vulnerable.
That creates the most conflict and tension in our relationship. Yeah. I don't want to say it's something we despise, because we don't. We love it about one another, but it's the very thing that keeps us in tension with one another, in conflict, which is not a bad thing. We were recently watching this series show called The Good Place, and sorry to ruin it for some people, but it's about going to heaven and what that's like, or hell. And heaven was the good place, and in the good place, everything was so good. There was no conflict at all. And because of that, like, it basically made everyone stupid. And like, they were like, because everything was just so perfect and good all the time, they were like going brain dead, because there was nothing to create any tension or conflict or polarity, where they couldn't like even like function or like even have an identity anymore, because there was like everything was just good. So it was interesting philosophically with that in regards to the importance of conflict and how that is kind of what keeps us in motion and keeps us kind of
becoming better
and evolving. And so
he has a lot of fun and I try to win.
The best of both. Best of both. Scott, did you have anything before I sum up with my last question? I want to make sure we get you in here.
No, everything's been awesome. I loved listening.
Awesome. Okay. So last question. What are your hopes for the future of our society now that you're bringing this third person into the world? I know you guys keep to yourselves for the most part, and you've been very successful in sort of keeping the outside ugliness out. Hopefully you'll be able to continue to do that. But what would you like to see? How would you like to see the world shaping up?
Yeah, we're definitely in a bubble, and sometimes we get like condemned for that. Like it's our responsibility to fight this and fight this and fight this and fight this and be against this. And someone proposed a really interesting question to me recently. I don't remember exactly how it went, but it was along the lines of, if you could spend all your energy either fighting the bad or doing good, what would you do? Would you fight the bad people or just try to do more good? And when it was presented to me like that, even though I kind of feel myself as like this warrior spirit, something that, fights to protect the light or the good. But in regards to that question, I decided that I would just do good. And it's interesting when we do kind of we take ourselves out of our bubble and we go into the real world, which for us is like, doesn't seem like the real world. Our reality is what we've created, and we're in our little bubble. But when we do go out there, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, it is overwhelming. And
it's hard, I think, sometimes when we get out of that bubble to do good. Like it
almost like
different side of you out, and you're like, I've never felt these emotions so strongly before when I'm inside my bubble. So when you get forced to feel those like uncomfortable feelings when you're outside your bubble, it's funny because you're like, whoa, it's hard to be good and to do good and to want to be kind to those outside your bubble, that don't have the same values or things like that. So yeah, you're right.
So the answer to the question, I think, would be, which I don't remember exactly the question, but it would be along the lines of create your own reality. Like just create and make and like in a good reality for yourself. And I think that will trickle over and spill over into other people's lives too. And that's really what we've been doing for like the past almost 10 years with our gym, is just creating a culture, creating a reality where we value things like nutrition and sleep and
loving others and being kind to others.
Good communication and holding safe space for people where they can feel vulnerable and they can share themselves and their feelings and their emotions however they would like. And that's what I would kind of want for our child, our future, whoever's else out there future, that you do not have to be part of the system. The system is gross and broken, and all you have to do is put yourself in it for a hot second to see how like and it is. And I think by just kind of, it seems selfish, but if you just kind of focus on just loving yourself, loving your, loving your neighbors, whoever's kind of closest to you. And if we all did that, like if we all just kind of loved ourselves, loved our neighbors, loved, the people to our right and to our left, and we just displayed kind of
some grace.
So this type of behavior, that I think that would be better for us in our whole world and of humanity than it would be to go fight all the bad stuff. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, and who knows, maybe my answer to that would change in like a year or two or something, but just create whatever you want to create, and know that it is not your responsibility to go, like right now the big thing is, like, if you're not speaking out against like racial injustice, then you are a racist. Or if you're not helping to get clean water for somebody in some third world country, then you hate people or something like that. Or and when I start,
we get a lot of messages sometimes being like, why aren't you guys standing up for these specific things that are going on in the world? All these
activists and things that are happening right now. But it's just
but we kind of believe too that if you love people, then
I would say come to our gym. Like come to the reality that we've created, and see for yourself, the work that we're doing to make change. And it's the work that we're doing to make change is trying to change ourselves and trying to inspire others around us
that we see every single day. Like social media sometimes just gets overwhelming because they just think that like, oh, because we're not speaking out to the entire world, we're not having change or fighting for something. Or so we would just rather spend that energy where, don't get me wrong, we still speak out on Instagram and social media, but we're trying to spend that energy with the people in the community that we are a part of every single day. Because we can
tangible,
see,
right? It's right in front of you.
Yeah.
And we do, and we go to work here too. It's been incredible what we've, the programs that we've started, the people that we've been able to help, and it's kind of funny. It's like it's gotten to a point where, like, if you're not, being an activist virtually, then it's almost like you're not helping anything. But we have programs for special needs. We have programs for underprivileged youth, or what some people would. I'm learning that there's this like political correctness right now, and you're like, you're not supposed to like say like inner city kids or something like that. And working with that, or working with mothers to help them on their journey, or to work with couples on how they communicate with one another. Like, there's
so many avenues, we can't hit them all.
Sure. We, rather than worrying so much about what we're doing in the virtual cyber world, we try to really bury ourselves into the reality that we've created, where we want to not fight the bad, even though we don't like the bad, but we choose to fight for good, and to share that good with people. And I really, really, really enjoy the reality that we've created for ourselves, because we're really happy in it. And it's so much fun. Like, I love our life that we live, and we've worked hard to create it for ourselves. And it's so crazy when we step out of it for a second, and we maybe go to like a grocery store, or we travel into some big city or something like that. And you're just like, whoa, it's crazy that this is another
Yeah. But if we all keep doing that, then that's going to spread into those big cities and spread into everywhere else, you know? So, yeah.
You have to answer
that was
your
a really
question.
long. Well, you kind of hit all spots talking with that answer. Well,
you
what
guys,
was the original question?
Go ahead, Scott.
What I have to say is, having met both of you at those regionals, you guys really do walk what you talk. And I respect that so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Jenn, you and I had a conversation at the 2019 games too, like in the beer garden. And you stopped and talked to me like we were best friends, you know? And it's like, I think we had met at MAC probably because you were running around being like the team mom for those guys. And you're super down to earth and, you know, willing to talk to everybody. And I just think you guys really exude sort of this energy and effervescence that's just really enjoyable to observe. So I can't thank you enough for your time. I know things are hectic. We wish you nothing but the best. We want to celebrate Star's birthday with you when that day comes.
I'll let you know. I'll email you for sure.
That sounds great. And we will be following, you know, your journey in the postpartum space and wish you the best of luck with podcast, books, ebooks, whatever you guys want to put out there. We just look forward to watching you, you know, expand everything. And Sam, we hope to see you, you know, on the individual floor someday soon as well.
You'll see him in 2021 for sure.
There you go. We'll be rooting for you. Thanks so much for your time again. And you guys have a great, great day.
Yeah, we love you guys.
Love you too.
Bye, guys.
Thanks so much.